a book that I read every January. Like I'm almost through it again. I've read this book like 4 times, but it's my book that I read every January. Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday.
That's great.
Right? It's a great book.
Brandon Moreno has that tattooed on his arm.
He has Ego is the Enemy tattooed. So does Ryan Holiday, that author.
Yep.
He tattooed it on his arm. And I'm struck by this year how when I read it back is different parts of the book are speaking to me than previously. I'm like, oh, previously, because this was an issue for me. And now this year, this is the issue for me.
That's great insight by you.
And it goes, and also in the world of prize fighting, to read a book anti-ego is quite refreshing.
But
where I'm just like, I can now pick at all of the ways that people are almost holding themselves back while thinking they're pushing themselves forward.
I mean, you nailed it, but we go back to Brandon Moreno. I mean, is Brandon Moreno tough? I mean, is that kid tough? He's such a sweet kid, and he has no ego at all, because at some point he figured that out. Ego is we all figured that out. We all have egos.
Well, not everybody figures it out.
That's yeah, you're right, but
especially in this business,
most people do. It just depends on what age they figure it out.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that, once you realize that you're not a big fucking deal, and the movie's not all about you, and you're not the starring character. When you're young, you just feel like everything's about you. Like, oh man, they're hating on me, or oh, people this, or everyone's against me. This, no one's even thinking about you, bud. And you're your own worst enemy, right? So when you can eliminate, that mental drag that you're holding on to about yourself and about, whatever attitudes it is that, you're taking on and honestly making up in your own head, everything's so much easier. And then you can really strip apart and look at, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Where do I need to improve? Where am I good? And what a refreshing thing, right? Because then you can really make progress when you're honest with yourself. So I think you nailed it. Being a fighter is hard. I fought MMA. It's like you got to feel like you're tough and you're ready, and that like no matter who comes your way, you're gonna take care of business. But on the same end, obviously you've got thoughts in your head. Man, I don't want to get knocked out. I hope this happens. I hope my knee holds up, right? Like I fought 2 fights with a torn ACL, and I had to brace it and tape it and do all this crap. I was so worried about my knee the whole time. So you've got to try to control your mind and be confident, but also be honest with yourself, which is a really hard balance when you're a 26-year-old, 25-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why we see some of these guys, kind of getting away from themselves a little bit, but it's just they're growing up in front of the world, and that's not always easy to do.
Yeah. Something for me, like I think it's easy to say ego is the enemy and don't have an ego. And I think instead of it being a binary thing, either you have an ego and it runs wild, or you don't and you're a good person to work with, I think it's on a spectrum, and it's like, where's my ego at now? Yeah. Is it at a 7 now because I'm kind of looking outward? Yeah. Or am I at like a 3 because I'm just like looking inward and trying to focus on me? How do you find that? Because you're not in the public eye of the fighter, but we show you on TV. Like you're hosting a show, UFC Breakdown, and Coach's Cam, brought to you by Cuervo. Here's Sayif Saud, and like you get some time, and there's people that will applaud you for what you do for your fighters and bring them to a championship setting and that sort of thing. So how do you balance when it starts spiking a little bit, maybe?
I think that man, I just feel so blessed. God's taking me down the long road. I've told you that, man. When I was young. I tell this story. I got on a bus once. Greg Jackson was my coach. Mm-hmm. Incredible coach, incredible MMA mind. And I got on a bus when I first started coaching. This is probably like 2010 or something. I don't remember, 11. And he was on the bus. And I said, hey, coach. I still call him coach. I sat next to him. I said, man, coach, I've been reflecting on when I was your student, because now I'm the coach.
You mean on like a shuttle bus from an event or something? Yeah.
And I was like, God damn, my attitude and the way I thought, and like I was like, yeah, I got it. Like I listened, but I didn't listen to the details. And as we always say now, and Greg said, the devil's in the details. And so I was like, man, Greg, my mindset, like, I just thought I was the man. He goes, you were exactly how you needed to be at that time. When you're a fighter, you need to be confident. You can't doubt yourself in there. He said, you were just the way you needed to be. And he goes, and you always won, right? And I was like, yeah. But I again, learned from him, like, guys got to be confident, right? So when your fighter's confident, you want to see that. As far as me, ego about what? Like, I think after you fight MMA and you go in there and you know how much risk you're putting in and how much is on the line, it's kind of hard to have an ego about anything else. Like, okay, I'm standing there talking about fighting, but I'm not fighting, you know? To me, being a coach is the secondary position. It isn't the primary position. To me, I'm here to make everybody else better. I'm here to improve these young guys. I'm here to connect with the audience and the fans and, you know, kind of be a mentor and a liaison for MMA and martial arts. But it's not about me, you know. Sure, I really get a lot of love, a ton of love from people on social media. You know, when I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Get it together. You know, like, well, everyone's like, man, you're so honest, like the way you are with your guys. But to me, it's just me telling them what they need to hear in that moment. You know, it's not about me. So the ultimate success would be if they all win all the time in the first round and I don't even get on that Cuervo cam. I don't even have to say anything.
Right.
That's the ultimate success because their success is my success. So I just think at 43, I'm just past all that. You know, maybe in my 20s, I wanted it, you know, and in my 30s, maybe a little bit it was there. But now as a father and, you know, and a husband and a guy that's owned his own gym now for, you know, 7.5 years, I'm just at a different place. And I think it's a great place to be. And I'm appreciative of that journey myself, of my own ego.
Do you remember any experiences where the shift was happening? Because
I do.
Go ahead.
No, I absolutely do. Not giving a shit what you look like when you walk outside of the house. You know, like I remember, right? And Curtis is laughing right here because he shaves his head. He's gonna like this. I remember my coach, Mike Van Arsdale, Coach Van, my guy, my wrestling coach, national champion, badass dude, right? He shaves his head. And Greg too. And they would come to the gym and their shit would be like, they wouldn't shave their head for like a week. And they would just have the sunroof, right?
Yeah.
Just the sunroof, which I got now, the sunroof. And they wouldn't do anything. They let all the hair grow, right? Kind of like Curtis did on the break. They let all the hair grow. And I remember being like, why is this dude not just shave that up? Like, why doesn't he come out here looking clean? You know, like, come on, man. Like, just quick shave right before practice. Like, no big deal. Dude, I'm that guy now. I go to practice, right? I haven't shaved my head for a week or whatever. And my guys, Ramez Brahima, he knows. He's like, Coach, you got to line that stuff up, man. Like, let me get you faded up here. I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit. I'm not here to impress you. My mind is on what we're trying to get done. My mind is on the guys. My mind is on winning. And I'm not saying don't look good, don't suit up and boot up, right? I'm not saying that don't present yourself well, but when you start not, you know, thinking like, oh, everyone's looking at me, how am I this, how am I that? And this started when I opened the gym, you know, in my mid-30s, I would say. And as I just naturally progressed in putting so much time and energy into seeing my guys and girls achieve, the more time and energy for myself or whatever I thought I was went away. So I replaced whatever ego and self fulfillment things that I had that was about me with giving to my guys and giving everything I had for them and really trying to get them over the top. And I think that's what aging is. You know, I think that in your 20s, you think you're the man. In your 30s, you kind of start figuring out this is everybody's journey, right? Like, it's not about you. And in your 40s, I think you start to give back those lessons and really kind of be a leader and a mentor. And if you have an ego, man, you can't lead. You know, people see it right away and are just like, dude, it's such a turn off, you know, me. No one cares. And again, as the fighter, I'm not the one fighting. So I need to make sure that I'm playing that support role as best way as I can. And I like doing that now in my 40s. I don't want it to be about me. My fucking knees hurt. My hands hurt. 8 surgeries. I'm not trying to have it be about me anymore. So I think it's just a natural progression. And I'll end with this. There's nothing worse than someone that ages poorly. I've seen it time and time again being an athlete. Guys that talk about, oh, I used to do this, I used to do that, or they always suit up and try to kind of get back into practice and you're like, dude, like what are you doing in the room? Like, you're gonna get hurt. Sure enough, what? Pop, you know, like your time is done. And so be gracious, have class, and go into the next part of your life. And the next phases is the mental, right? And the mentorship and being a guy or a girl that people can learn from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I started getting into my later 30s, I started to want to actively learn from people who are in their 40s.
Yeah.
Instead of see how I can hold on to my 30s and whatever.
Yeah.
And also, when you're not in an athletic endeavor like I am, my best years are still very much ahead of me.
Yeah.
And when you're an athlete and you're getting your late 30s, I can imagine the challenge
It's
that you're
hard to deal with. When I had 6 fights, 3-0 amateur, 3-0 pro. It was good. I had Greg Jackson cornering me, Rashad Evans. I wanted to make my UFC debut, win 1 fight, and then retire and open a gym. So I was lucky enough to kind of still land in the right place, living my dream. But the first 2 years, tore my ACL, tore my biceps, all kinds of crap. The first 2 years, I was 28 when I retired. It was tough because I was in between a fighter's mindset and now a coach's. Mm-hmm. I was in between that selfish part about me being an athlete and how do I give and make guys better. So it's definitely been a process, but now at 43, I've been a head coach for 15 years now. Honestly, I don't really think about it anymore. It kind of comes easy, and if I was to try to go back in the other direction and make it about me, I just think that'd be embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah, and I think people, I don't know, I have suffered even as recently. Like this, to me, this break was quite life-changing for me since calling fight in December and then coming back in the new year.
Great job on that fight, by the way. It was exciting.
Thank you. It was, UFC Austin was great. Yeah. And I don't know. I think MMA as a sport stokes the fires because everybody's talking about everybody, and sometimes and oftentimes in glowing terms.
Yeah.
So it becomes very intoxicating to just have like blogs written about you, like who's on the commentary this week. So it's like no other sport is there news articles on like who's on the commentary team and people treating it as a subject. So when I started calling fights for the UFC, I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah,
like,
how about me?
When
where's my call out? Where's
that's
my
what I
shout
mean.
out?
Like or no, not even that, but it's like I can't believe I'm getting this.
Yeah.
And then it feels good. It's like this little hit of like attention.
Yeah, a little
and then you want more of it, especially when you're on TV. You kind of have to be okay with attention and thrive on it, which I do. But just recently, I'm just like, dude, like Jim Nantz is not trying to get attention.
That's what I'm saying.
He's just amazing.
Yeah. When you get to a certain point, and you're a couple years younger than me, and it's just so natural.
Yeah.
You just don't, who you are and what you are, and you really don't care who says what or when or how. Like, you're not even looking anymore. Joe Rogan said, he said this to a bunch of people, and he's a really down-to-earth guy. When you talk to him and you see him backstage, he has an immense respect for fighters that I don't think people understand. And being as famous as he is, he's really cool the way he is to everybody. And, you hear that he doesn't take pictures with people and this and that. But whenever he's around fighters and whenever I see him backstage, he's just such a down-to-earth guy. And he says, I don't read the comments, man.
Yeah.
I don't read the comments. So, like, I don't read your comments, dude. Like, I don't have time to sit and look up and see, nor does it matter to me. I want to be a vessel for positivity, for knowledge, for growth. I've been doing martial arts since I was 3 years old. I'm 43 every single day of my life. My dad still has his dojo, 80 years old, still going to work every day. So this is the guy that I got to live up to.
Yeah,
right? I got a long way to go.
Yeah.
So shout out to Pops. But it's not about anybody else. And I think when you get comfortable enough with yourself in that journey, like you said, you're Jim Nantz, you're Joe Rogan. You're not looking at the comments. You don't care. So I've really enjoyed aging lately. I don't know why. I just enjoy it because I think of that. I think I've let go of my own ego and I just don't care about those things anymore. And it's kind of a freeing thing.
Hey, thanks for checking out Fitz Nation and my YouTube channel. If you want the full episode of this podcast, you can watch it on UFC Fight Pass. There's a link in the description below, or you can sign on to UFC Fight Pass and search Fitz Nation.